It began with hunger, frost, and broken promises. In the streets of St. Petersburg, crowds of workers and peasants demanded bread and change. The old empire trembled. The Tsar Nicholas II was forced to step down, ending centuries of Romanov rule. Then, in October 1917, the Bolsheviks stormed the Winter Palace under red banners. The world had changed forever. A new state was born, forged in revolution, fire, and blood. Lenin promised land to the peasants, peace to the weary, and bread to the starving. But civil war followed Reds versus Whites, tearing Russia apart. Armored trains thundered across the frozen plains, while propaganda painted a future of equality. Lenin's health faded, and with his death, the young Soviet experiment faced its first great test. Who would lead? And at what cost? Stalin outmaneuvered rivals like Trotsky, consolidating power with ruthless precision. Factories rose, smokestacks choked the skies, and millions were forced into collective farms. But progress came with terror. The Great Purge silenced dissent. Millions vanished into gulags or graves. The Soviet Union had become both a titan and a prison. In 1941, Hitler broke the pact and unleashed Operation Barbarossa. German tanks blitzed across Soviet soil, but the Red Army refused to break. At Stalingrad, amidst rubble and frost, Soviet soldiers fought street by street. Snipers hid in shadows, and blood froze in the snow. Then came the counterattack, T-34 tanks rolling west. By 1945, the Red Banner flew over Berlin. The Soviet Union had lost over 20 million lives, but emerged a victor and a superpower. The world divided. Churchill spoke of an Iron Curtain. The Soviets tested their first nuclear bomb, turning the Cold War hot with fear. Sputnik beeped across the skies, the first satellite ever launched. And then Yuri Gagarin, smiling in his cosmonaut suit, became the first man in space. The Red Star had risen higher than ever before. Yet behind the glory, shadows deepened. Eastern Europe groaned under Soviet tanks, rebellions crushed in Budapest and Prague. In Cuba, missiles nearly sparked nuclear war. At home, shortages plagued the people. Queues for bread stretched across gray Moscow streets. And always, the KGB watched. Silence was survival. Afghanistan became the Soviet Vietnam, a bleeding war with no victory. Chernobyl poisoned the land and trust in the state itself. Gorbachev's reforms, glasnost and perestroika, offered hope, but also unleashed forces he could not control. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. The symbol of division was shattered by the very people it had trapped. The empire was collapsing, brick by brick. On Christmas Day 1991, the red flag was lowered over the Kremlin for the last time. The Soviet Union was no more. 15 new nations emerged from its ashes, some hopeful, some scarred. But echoes remain, in language, in monuments, in politics, and in memory. The Soviet Union had reshaped the 20th century. It rose in revolution, strode across the world as a superpower, and collapsed under its own weight. Its story is his story.